I bought 4 roasted duck legs, and my son ate 2 of them. When he saw me pick one up for myself, his face flushed with anxiety. Why didn't you save any for Dad? I was confused. There's still one left for him on the plate, isn't there? He was on the verge of tears, reaching out to snatch the duck leg I had just taken a bite of. Couldn't you have saved 2 for Dad? I froze. So in his eyes, I had no right to eat the duck legs I had personally bought and cooked? 1. For a moment, I couldn't believe the words coming out of the son I had raised with my own 2 hands. I thought maybe he just hadn't seen clearly. I explained to him. There were 4 in total. You had 2, I'm having 1, and we saved 1 for Dad. He dodged the point. Well, why didn't you tell me? I was baffled. Tell you what? He raised his voice shouting. You were supposed to tell me before you ate it. How else was I supposed to know you took one? I was struggling to understand. I have to ask for your permission to eat a duck leg now. His face turned crimson with anger. Are you crazy? Stop changing the subject and answer my question. Why didn't you save more for Dad? I pointed to the plate. I did. There's one right there. He looked as if he'd been deeply wronged, wiping away tears as he said resentfully. Why didn't you save 2 for him? I was dumbstruck. So he wasn't bad at math. I suppressed my anger and questioned him. So, in your opinion, is Mommy not even allowed to eat a single duck leg? He didn't answer, just stood there with his chin up and his neck stiff, looking sympathetically toward his father. Dad works so hard every day, of course he should get an extra one. You could just eat something else. Why do you have to fight him for it? Can't you stop being so selfish for once? At this, my husband, Mark, who had been sitting by silently, grinned and pushed the plate of duck legs closer to our son, Alex. Alex's eyes immediately welled up again, his lip trembling as if his suffering had just been validated. It finally clicked. I looked at the child I had painstakingly raised, my voice filled with disbelief. So Mommy doesn't work hard? Mommy goes to work every day, does all the housework, and takes care of you. Isn't Mommy tired? Doesn't she deserve to eat one single duck leg? He said nothing, just kept wiping his tears away. Seeing this, my husband finally decided to speak, playing the peacemaker. All right, why are you arguing with a child? He's so young. What does he know? He's just fooling around with you. 2. I stared silently at the dishes on the table. Every day after work, I'd rush to the market, always picking the freshest, most expensive ingredients, terrified that anything less would affect my son's health. Then I'd race back home to get dinner on the table before he returned from school, just so he wouldn't have to wait hungry. Every morning, a neatly folded set of clean clothes was waiting for him by his bed. The house was always spotless, a result of me fighting off sleep every night to clean. The snacks, the fruit, the household supplies, they never ran out, and he never once wondered where they came from. He was used to it, so he never saw it. He only saw his father leaving early and coming home late from work. A knot of pain tightened in my chest. I couldn't help but ask him. Mommy is very tired and works very hard too. He pushed the plate back toward his father, his tone dismissive. You barely make any money. How hard can your job be? Dad is the pillar of this family. He's the one who works the hardest. My eyes locked onto my husband, Mark. He looked away guiltily, forcing a laugh. Anna, don't take it out on the kid. His job was a cushy, low-stress position, and his salary was significantly lower than mine. But he'd always said that a father needed to maintain a strong, positive image to encourage his son to become a responsible, upstanding man. So he lied to Alex about his income, inflating his own while drastically downplaying mine. I thought it was for our child's benefit, so I never said anything. I never imagined that in my son's eyes, his father was the sole provider, and I was just a pathetic freeloader who didn't even deserve a duck leg. The thought made my anger boil over. I swept my arm across the table, sending dishes crashing to the floor. Then nobody eats. Mark gasped. Anna, are you insane? I laughed coldly. If I don't go insane, I'll probably end up not being allowed to eat at all in this house. My son shrieked and hid behind Mark. The tigress is on a rampage again. Tigress? Is that what they called me behind my back? Mark looked uncomfortable and turned away, pretending to scold our son. How can you talk about your mother like that? Alex didn't care. He ran over, shoved me hard, then ducked back behind his father and made a face at me. A chilling cold spread through my heart. This was the child I had carried for 10 months and raised with my own hands? When he was born, he was frail and sickly, constantly in and out of the hospital. Mark always had an excuse, an urgent meeting, leaving me to take him to the emergency room alone in the middle of the night. My milk supply was low, so I spent hours researching and preparing nutritious baby food to make him strong. And now he was indeed strong. Strong enough to push me onto the sofa with one shove. It didn't hurt physically, but my heart felt like it had been stabbed. Clutching my chest, I went back to the bedroom. 3. Lying in bed, I couldn't understand how things had gotten to this point. Mark had stopped working late, around the time Alex started recognizing faces. He'd come home early bringing little toys and playing wildly with Alex until I had dinner ready. Then his tone would change. Okay, time to eat, or mommy's going to get angry. And the two of them would go wash their hands, giggling together. At the time, I thought it was wonderful. I thought he was a good, family-oriented man who was willing to play with his son. But thinking back, why was I always the villain? Hurry up and eat, or mommy will get mad. Stop fooling around, you'll make mommy upset. Still playing? Just wait until your mother comes to deal with you. No, mommy won't let you eat that. Mommy won't let us go. Here comes mommy to get you. I had never hit him, never even yelled at him. Yet mommy was always the consequence, the threat that followed every restriction and every unpleasant moment. And daddy had neatly extracted himself, comfortably playing the good guy. Soon Mark came in to talk to me. Every time Alex and I had a conflict, he would play the mediator. To Alex he'd say, "Your mom's just got a temper. All women are like that. You be the bigger person and let it go." To me he'd say, "Kids don't mean what they say. It's our job as parents to teach them." He was so upset he was crying just now, you shouldn't hold it against him. My heart would ache for my son. And listening to Mark, I'd start to feel like it was my fault he wasn't being raised right. Guilt would wash over me. I'd reflect on my actions and then go make up with Alex. Over time, this became our routine. Right now, Alex was sitting in the living room like a little prince, waiting for me to come and appease him. And Mark, as usual, started his tirade of cliches. Before, I would just stew in my anger and not pay him much attention. But this time, I watched him quietly, and I saw it. In his eyes, there was excitement, a strange sense of triumph. He was happy. He was proud that his son was so devoted to him, so much so that he would belittle and even attack his own mother. He was enjoying this. How had I never noticed it before? He talked until his mouth was dry, but it was all the same, invalidating my feelings and emotionally blackmailing me. I gradually began to see his true intention. He was showing off how close he was with our son, while I, the actual mother, was treated with contempt. But hidden within that pride was a sliver of jealousy I couldn't quite place. I didn't understand. We were a family. My salary paid for them, for this home. What was he jealous of? He was the one who couldn't handle a demanding job and chose the easier, lower-paying one. 4. After waiting a long time for me to come and grovel, Alex started throwing a tantrum in the living room, breaking things. Specifically, my things. When I walked out, he was using a small knife to slash at my handbag. Mark glanced at my face and quickly rushed over to play the good guy. "Quick, apologize to your mother. If you apologize, she won't be mad anymore." I picked up the ruined bag. I had worked on a project for months, and I'd used my bonus to finally treat myself to this. Alex huffed. "She makes so little, and she has the nerve to make you buy her such an expensive bag. Dad, you just spoil her too much." I had to laugh. I threw the bag at Mark's feet. "You bought this for me?" He avoided the question, pulling Alex behind him. "Don't drag the child into our problems. He's still young." Alex was immediately moved, hugging Mark's arm tightly. "Dad, just divorce her. We don't need this tigress." Mark's expression stiffened. He cleared his throat and ruffled Alex's hair. "What are you talking about? Mom and Dad would never get a divorce. We'd never separate, especially not for your sake." Alex snorted in my direction. "You're just lucky you found a husband like my dad, who's willing to support you." The two of them exchanged a smile. Mark ushered Alex into his room, then turned to face the mess, sighing dramatically. "Anna, you're a mother now. Can't you be more mature? Look at this place, what a mess." I pressed him. "You said you bought this bag." He looked down. "It's just a bag. Do you really have to be so petty?" I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "You're right. It's just a bag. So buy me a new one." He scoffed. "Fine, I'll buy it. It's not like I've never bought you anything before." True. He had bought me things. An apron for International Women's Day. Laundry detergent for Mother's Day. A rice cooker for my birthday. He looked a little embarrassed, pulling out his phone to order one. "Is that what this is about? You just wanted a gift? I'll get it for you, you don't have to be so relentless." But his face changed when he saw the price. He jumped to his feet. He pointed a finger at me, yelling, "Anna, how can you be so wasteful?" Hearing the commotion, Alex ran out, crossing his arms and sneering. "See? I told you. She's just a lazy, wasteful woman." I glared at him. He glared back defiantly. "I'm not wrong. You spend Dad's money on bags and makeup for yourself, but you won't even save him a duck leg. You're so selfish. How can you be so shameless? I'm so embarrassed to have a mother like you." 5. Without a moment's hesitation, I slapped him across the face. He was too stunned to react, just stared at me blankly. It was the first time in his life I had ever laid a hand on him. After a few seconds, his face contorted with rage, and he pointed his finger right at my nose. "You hit me." I slapped his pointing hand down. Furious, he tried to headbutt me. I sidestepped, and he slammed his head into a cabinet. He burst into tears. Dad, Mommy's bullying me. Go hit her. Mark rushed to hug him, then roared at me. What is wrong with you tonight? Do you have to turn this house upside down? Is it all because of a stupid duck leg? Fine. Alex and I won't eat them. You can have them all. Is that what you want? I walked right up to Mark. He snorted, lifting his chin, as if waiting for me to back down and apologize. After all, I was always the one who compromised for the sake of our family, for our son. I stopped in front of him. I raised my hand, and I slapped him hard across the face. I was so focused on the kid, I forgot about you. 6. Mark looked up, stunned. You hit me. I picked up my ruined handbag. I had just gotten a promotion. I needed something professional for client meetings, so I had saved for a long time before finally splurging on this bag. I was always so careful with it. Now, it was covered in scratches. He felt I didn't deserve it, just like he felt I didn't deserve a single duck leg. I held up the bag, my eyes filled with disappointment as I looked at Mark. Let's get a divorce. Children are incredibly perceptive. Mark's tacit approval of our son's behavior, coupled with his own teasing put-downs of me, had shown Alex that my position in the family was at the very bottom, that I could be treated however they pleased. That's why he felt I didn't deserve nice things. He had become this way because of his father's influence. Mark panicked, forgetting his swollen cheek. Honey, we were just kidding around, don't take it so seriously. Why are you talking about divorce over something so small? Think about how it will affect Alex's mental health. In the past, any mention of our son would make me back down. But now, I glanced at the boy who had absolutely no room for me in his heart, and let out a cold laugh. Isn't this what our good son suggested? Don't you always say we should respect our child's wishes? Well, I'm just doing what he wants. He was speechless for a moment, then frowned at Alex. That's not what I meant. Look at you, always blowing things out of proportion. Can't you take a joke? Alex snuggled into his father's arms, glaring at me. Dad, don't give her another chance. Divorce her. I'd like to see how she survives without us. She'll regret it then. I couldn't help but chuckle. I looked at Mark and nodded. Yes, I'm sure without a burden like me holding you back, the two of you will live like kings. Alex pumped his fist in the air. We will. And when you come crawling back, you tigress, we won't take you back. Mark awkwardly tried to quiet him. That's enough. Alex didn't know the truth, but Mark certainly did. I bought everything for the house. I paid for all the monthly expenses. His salary was just his own pocket money. 7. The next morning, the house was clean, and breakfast was on the table. Mark, wearing an apron, was acting as if nothing had happened. Honey, breakfast is ready, he said with a cheerful smile. I was taken aback. The last time he'd been this helpful was when I was pregnant. Back then, I thought I was so lucky to have found such a caring husband. After our son was born, he never set foot in the kitchen or lifted a finger to clean again. As I ate, Alex glared at me resentfully from across the table. You're a woman making a man do housework. Have you no shame? If other people find out, they'll call Dad henpecked. Besides, this is all your job. Don't keep bothering Dad. Even if he spoils you, you can't just take it for granted. At least say thank you. You have no manners. Can you just stop making trouble? Let Dad have some peace. He works so hard to support us, it's already hard enough for him. I looked at the son I had raised for 10 years, and a deep chill settled in my heart. Did he have no empathy for the mother who gave birth to him and raised him? Mark cleans the house and makes breakfast one time, and my son's heart breaks for him. What about me? I had cooked for him for 10 years, 3 meals a day, his clothes, his home, everything taken care of. Why had he never felt sorry for me? Why had he never once said thank you? The boy I once thought was lively and cute suddenly seemed monstrous. I looked down at my plate, unable to look at him any longer. After breakfast, I walked out of the bedroom with a suitcase. Mark stared at me. What are you doing? I said flatly. I'm serious about the divorce. He rushed to grab my suitcase. No, I don't agree. I'm not divorcing you. But Alex pulled on his arm, a happy look on his face. Dad, let her go. You're handsome, gentle, caring, and you make good money. You can find any woman you want without her. Let her go. Once she's gone, she'll realize how good she had it here. She can just wait and regret it. I snorted and looked at Mark. He was decent looking, I suppose. As for gentle and caring, please. I walked out the door with my suitcase. The moment it clicked shut, I could still hear Alex chattering on to his father about all the benefits of divorcing me. And on Mark's face, a look of pure bewilderment. 8. The heavy thud of the front door closing behind me felt less like an ending, and more like the pulling of a ripcord. I stood in the hallway for a moment, the handle of my suitcase cool against my palm. Through the solid wood of the door, I could still hear Alex's high-pitched, self-righteous voice echoing in the foyer. Good riddance. Now we can order pizza for dinner, Dad. She always made us eat those stupid vegetables. I waited for Mark to correct him. I waited for the man I had been married to for 12 years to finally, for once, tell his son to respect his mother. Silence. Then Mark's muffled voice, entirely devoid of authority. Alex, go to your room. Let me think. I didn't shed a single tear as I walked to the elevator. The profound, hollow grief I had felt the night before had crystallized into something hard, cold, and incredibly sharp. I checked into a long-term business hotel near my office. The room was small, sterile, and entirely mine. There were no dirty socks kicked under the coffee table, no Lego bricks waiting to puncture my bare feet in the dark, and no husband sitting on the sofa, scrolling through his phone while waiting for me to announce that dinner was ready. I unpacked my few belongings, set my laptop on the desk, and immediately drafted an email to my lawyer. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in Mark's sheer, unadulterated panic. Because I had handled 100% of the household logistics for a decade, the collapse of their daily lives was immediate and catastrophic. It started on Tuesday. My phone buzzed in the middle of a client meeting. It was Mark. I ignored it. He called 3 more times, followed by a frantic text message. Mark. Anna, where is the card for the electricity meter? The power just went out. Alex has online tutoring in 10 minutes. I looked at the text, remembering the spreadsheet I kept on my computer, the recurring calendar alerts I had set up to ensure the utilities were paid on time. I had paid them effortlessly for 10 years, making it look like magic. Now the magician was gone. I didn't reply. On Thursday, he called me at 7 a.m. I was sipping a hot, uninterrupted cup of coffee in my hotel room. I let it go to voicemail. Mark's voicemail. Anna, please pick up. I can't find Alex's winter uniform coat. It dropped to freezing last night. Did you take it to the dry cleaners? Where is the receipt? He's crying because he doesn't want to get a detention for being out of uniform. Just call me back. I took a slow sip of my coffee. The coat was exactly where it belonged, washed, ironed, and hung in the garment bag at the back of Alex's closet, pushed behind his summer clothes. But Mark had never opened that closet to dress his son in his life. He didn't know how to look. By Friday evening, the reality of my financial absence finally hit him. The joint account we used for household expenses was completely empty. I had transferred my entire salary to a private account the morning I left. I left him exactly what he had contributed that month. 0. My phone rang. This time I answered. Anna. Mark's voice was breathless, a mix of relief and barely suppressed rage. Where the hell are you? Do you know what kind of week I've had? The power was off for an entire day. Alex got a detention for his uniform. And when I went to buy groceries today, my card declined. Did you empty the joint account? I didn't empty it, I said calmly, leaning back in my chair. I just didn't deposit my paycheck into it. Since we are getting a divorce, our finances need to be separated. Divorce? Mark shouted, the word echoing in his empty kitchen. Are you still on that? I thought you just needed a few days to cool off. Anna, you are taking this way too far. You're punishing your own son. He's been eating takeout all week. He has a stomachache. Then take him to the doctor, I replied, my voice devoid of the panic that usually accompanied the words Alex and stomachache. You're his father. You're the pillar of the family. Handle it. I don't have the money for a private clinic right now, Mark blurted out, finally admitting the truth he had hidden from Alex for years. You know my paycheck doesn't clear until the 15th, and most of it goes to my car payment. You have to transfer some money back, Anna. This isn't funny anymore. I agree. It's not funny at all. I pulled up a document on my laptop. My lawyer will be serving you the divorce papers on Monday. I suggest you read them carefully. I am filing for full custody of Alex, but given his age, the judge will ask him who he wants to live with. I'm sure he'll choose his wealthy, hard-working father. Anna, stop. Mark's voice cracked. The bravado was entirely gone. You can't do this. He needs his mother. He doesn't have a mother, Mark, I said, the cold truth settling heavily between us. He has a maid, an ATM, and a punchline. You made sure of that. Now you get to deal with the consequences. I hung up and blocked his number. 9. The divorce proceedings were ugly, not because we were fighting over assets, but because Mark was desperately fighting to keep the illusion alive. When we sat down for mediation 3 weeks later, Mark looked like he had aged 5 years. His hair was unkempt, his suit was wrinkled, and the dark circles under his eyes were profound. He had brought Alex with him, a blatant emotional manipulation tactic. Alex sat in the waiting room, glaring at me through the glass partition. He didn't look like a smug prince anymore. He looked tired. He was wearing a slightly stained hoodie, and his hair hadn't been cut. When we sat at the long mahogany table, my lawyer slid the asset division proposal across to Mark. Because I had kept meticulous financial records for a decade, tracing every mortgage payment, every grocery bill, and every tuition fee back to my personal salary account, the math was irrefutable. The house, which had a hefty mortgage I was solely paying, would be sold, and the equity split proportionally. Mark would walk away with barely enough for a down payment on a small apartment. Mark stared at the numbers, his face pale. This is absurd. I am entitled to half of everything. We were married for 12 years. You are entitled to half of the marital assets. My lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Claire, corrected him. However, given that my client can prove she carried 90% of the financial burden, and you hid your actual income from the family to maintain a false narrative, a judge will look very favorably upon this equitable distribution. If you want to take this to trial, we will subpoena your bank records, your credit card statements, and your employment history. Mark swallowed hard, his eyes darting to me. Anna, please. You're leaving me with nothing. I'm leaving you with exactly what you built, Mark, I said, my voice steady. The mediator cleared his throat. Now regarding the custody of your son, Alexander. Ms. Chun is petitioning for primary physical custody. Mr. Davis, are you contesting this? Before Mark could answer, the door to the conference room swung open. Alex had snuck away from the receptionist and burst into the room, his face red with anger. I'm not living with her. Alex yelled, pointing a finger at me. She's a wicked woman. She abandoned us. She starved me. Dad had to buy me McDonald's every day because she took all our money. The mediator looked startled. Claire, my lawyer, just raised an eyebrow. I looked at my son. 10 years of my life, my youth, my sleep, my career ambitions, poured into this child. And he stood there, parroting the narrative his father had fed him, looking at me as if I were a monster. Mark scrambled to his feet, trying to pull Alex back. Alex, go back outside. This is grown-up talk. No. Alex yanked his arm away, glaring at me with absolute venom. I want the judge to know. I want to live with Dad. Dad is the one who buys me things. Dad is the one who works hard. You're just a greedy, selfish tigress. The word hung in the air, heavy and toxic. I didn't cry. I didn't defend myself. I just looked at Mark. Mark looked terrified. He knew that taking primary custody of Alex meant he would have to pay for him. He would have to cook, clean, help with homework, and arrange childcare. He would have to be an actual parent, not just the fun dad, who swooped in for 20 minutes before bedtime. Mark, I said softly, cutting through Alex's rant. Do you want primary custody? Mark froze. He looked at Alex, who was staring up at him with utter devotion. Then he looked at the financial reality laid out on the table in front of him. I work very long hours, Mark stammered, the lie slipping out of habit before he realized how pathetic it sounded in this room. I travel for business. It wouldn't be fair to Alex to have him in daycare so much. He needs his mother. Alex's face fell. He looked up at his father, confusion wrinkling his forehead. Dad? What do you mean? You said you were the boss. You said you could make your own hours. Mark couldn't meet his son's eyes. Alex, it's complicated. Grown-up jobs are hard. But you said we didn't need her. Alex's voice cracked, a hint of genuine panic bleeding through his anger. You said she was just dead weight. I want to live with you. I turned to my lawyer. Claire, amend the petition. Claire looked at me surprised. Are you sure, Anna? I am. I looked directly at Mark, then at Alex. If Alexander wishes to reside primarily with his father, I will not contest it. Mark will have primary physical custody. I will take alternating weekends and pay standard child support. Mark's jaw practically hit the floor. Anna, you can't be serious. I can't manage him alone. Who is going to take him to soccer practice? Who is going to cook? You are, Mark, I said, standing up from the table, buttoning my blazer. You're the pillar of the family. It's time to start holding up the roof. Alex looked triumphant, though a little uncertain. He ran to his father, hugging his waist. We don't need her, Dad. We'll be fine. Mark looked like a man standing on the gallows, watching the trapdoor splinter beneath his feet. 10. The first 6 months post-divorce were a revelation. Without the crushing physical and emotional labor of managing a household for 2 ungrateful men, my career skyrocketed. I was promoted to regional director. I bought a beautiful light-filled condo downtown. I slept a full 8 hours every night. I bought myself a new, far more expensive handbag, and no one was there to slash it with a knife. Mark's life predictably imploded. Because he couldn't afford the mortgage on his own, they had to sell the house. Mark moved into a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in a much cheaper neighborhood. The reality of single fatherhood hit him like a freight train. He couldn't cook. Alex, used to my meticulously balanced, fresh meals, initially rejoiced at the daily influx of pizza, instant noodles, and fast food. But within 3 months, Alex had gained noticeable weight, developed chronic stomach issues, and his pediatrician flagged him for prediabetes. Mark couldn't handle the logistics. Alex was constantly late for school. His pristine uniforms became permanently wrinkled and stained because Mark didn't know how to separate colors in the wash. He missed parent-teacher conferences. He forgot to sign permission slips. The fun dad facade completely shattered. Without me there to act as the villain, Mark was forced to be the disciplinarian. When Alex refused to do his homework, Mark had to yell at him. When Alex threw a tantrum because he wanted a new video game they couldn't afford, Mark had to be the one to say no. The resentment that had once been entirely directed at me was slowly, inevitably, turning toward Mark. My weekends with Alex were an exercise in emotional detachment. I didn't try to buy his love. I didn't try to badmouth Mark. I simply provided a safe, clean environment. I cooked healthy meals. I took him to museums and parks. But the warm, desperate, cloying maternal anxiety I used to feel was gone. I treated him kindly, like a nephew I was fond of, but the profound, unconditional bond had been severed by his own cruelty. One Saturday afternoon, about 8 months after the divorce, Alex and I were sitting in my new, pristine kitchen. I was roasting a chicken. The smell filled the apartment, warm and inviting. Alex sat at the island counter, picking at his fingernails. He looked subdued. The arrogant spark he used to carry was entirely gone, replaced by a sullen, defensive exhaustion. "Mom?" he asked quietly, not looking up. It was the first time he had called me Mom without a sneer in over a year. "Yes, Alex?" I replied, checking the oven temperature. "Can I come live with you?" I paused, closing the oven door. I turned to look at him. His eyes were welling with tears. "Dad is always angry now. He yells at me all the time. He says I'm ruining his life because he can't go out with his friends anymore. And the food is gross. He never makes duck legs. He said they're too expensive." He looked up at me, his lip trembling, expecting me to rush forward, wrap him in my arms and promise to save him. He expected the mother who used to sacrifice her own meals to ensure he was full. I looked at the boy who had told me I didn't deserve to eat. The boy who had urged his father to abandon me. "I'm sorry you're unhappy, Alex," I said, my voice gentle but entirely firm. "But you cannot live with me." His tears spilled over, his face twisting in shock. "Why not? You're my mother. You have a huge apartment. You have a guest room. Why won't you let me come back?" I walked over to the counter and sat on the stool opposite him. I looked him directly in the eyes. "Because Alex, you made your choice. You stood in a conference room and told a mediator that I was a wicked, selfish woman who starved you. You chose your father because he told you he was the sole provider, and you believed him because it justified your lack of respect for me." "I was a kid," Alex cried, wiping his nose with his sleeve. "Dad lied to me. He told me he made all the money. He told me you were just a nag." "I know he lied to you," I said calmly. "But you didn't just believe a lie, Alex. You enjoyed it. You enjoyed looking down on me. You enjoyed treating me like a servant. You didn't care if I was tired. You didn't care if I was hungry. You only cared that you and your father got the best of everything." "I'm sorry," he sobbed, burying his face in his hands. "I'm sorry about the duck leg. I'm sorry about your bag. I'll be good, I promise. Just let me stay here." I reached out and gently patted his shoulder. Not a hug, just a comforting, distant touch. "You don't want to live with me because you love me, Alex," I said softly, delivering the hardest truth a mother could ever speak. "You want to live with me because your father's house is uncomfortable now. You want the clean clothes, the good food, and the easy life I provided. You miss the service, not the mother." He froze, his sobs hitching in his throat. He looked up at me, realizing with terrifying clarity that the unconditional well of forgiveness he had relied upon had completely dried up. "You will stay with your father," I continued, standing up and returning to the stove. "You will go to school. You will learn to do your own laundry, and you will learn how to cook for yourself. If you need help with your homework, you can call me. If you are in danger, I will protect you. But I will not be your maid anymore." The rest of the weekend was painfully quiet. When Mark came to pick him up on Sunday evening, Alex looked like a ghost. Mark looked even worse. He was holding a stack of past due bills in his hand, looking at my luxury condo building with a mixture of profound regret and bitter envy. "Anna," Mark said as Alex dragged his feet toward Mark's beat-up sedan. "Can we talk? Just for a minute?" "We have nothing to talk about, Mark. Please," he begged, stepping closer. "I can't do this anymore. I'm drowning. The rent went up, my car needs a new transmission. Anna, I made a mistake. I was stupid. I let my ego get the better of me. But we were a family. We can be a family again. I'll do the cooking. I'll do the cleaning. Just let us come home." He looked at me with the pathetic, desperate eyes of a man who had realized too late that he had slaughtered the goose that laid the golden eggs. I smiled. A genuine, radiant smile. "I am home, Mark," I said, stepping back toward the glass doors of my lobby. "You're just trespassing." I turned around and walked inside. The automatic doors slid shut behind me, locking with a quiet, satisfying click. Epilogue. 5 years later. I sat at a corner table in a high-end French bistro, sipping a glass of Bordeaux. I was waiting for a client to celebrate the closure of a massive corporate merger I had spearheaded. At 42, I was the youngest vice president in my firm's history. Through the large glass window of the restaurant, I watched the city rush by in the evening rain. A figure caught my eye on the sidewalk outside. It was a teenager, about 15, wearing a cheap, ill-fitting fast food uniform, huddled under an awning to escape the downpour. He was holding a damp flyer for a tutoring center. It was Alex. I hadn't seen him in person for 6 months. As he got older, he had stopped coming for his designated weekends, preferring to lock himself in his room at Mark's apartment rather than face the sterile, disciplined environment of my condo. He looked exhausted. The arrogant, entitled child who had once demanded his father get 2 duck legs while his mother got none was entirely gone. In his place was a tired young man, working a minimum wage job to help his father pay the rent. Mark had lost his job 3 years ago during a corporate restructuring. Without my income to fall back on, and lacking the skills to secure a high-level position, he had bounced from one mediocre sales job to another, dragging Alex down with him into a cycle of near poverty. I watched my son shiver in the rain. A part of me, the old Anna, the mother who had spent nights researching pureed vegetables to cure his colic, felt a phantom ache in my chest. An instinct to run outside, wrap him in my expensive trench coat, bring him inside, and order him a hot meal. I watched him pull a squashed, sad-looking sandwich wrapped in foil from his backpack and take a bite, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I took another sip of my wine. I didn't move. I had given him life. I had given him a decade of absolute, unwavering devotion. And when he had the chance, he had looked at my exhaustion and told me I was worthless. He had to learn the value of a meal the hard way. He had to learn what it actually meant to be the pillar of a family. My client arrived, shaking out his umbrella and offering a warm, congratulatory handshake. "Anna, you look fantastic," he beamed, taking the seat across from me. "Ready to celebrate?" I looked away from the window, turning my attention entirely to the bright, warm interior of the restaurant and the promising future sitting across the table. "Absolutely," I smiled, raising my glass. "I've never been readier."